It's springtime and that can mean only one thing. The classics are here. I love the classics. Harsh cobbles, punchy bergs, changeable weather conditions, riders leaving everything out on the road to try to win. It's the best type of racing there is. Coming up, we'll look at the classics we are most looking forward to this spring. Just before we start though, we are very happy to be able to show many of these races live and on demand on GCN Plus, totally ad-free. However, due to the complexities of race broadcast rights, not everybody will be able to watch all of these races on GCN Plus. So make sure you check out the link in the description to see what races are available to you. So without further ado, here are our top classics that we're looking forward to this spring. Kicking off the entire classic season is Omloop Het Nieuwsblad, the first part of the Belgian opening weekend. This is often referred to as the proper start of the cycling season, and that, whilst that's a bit unfair to races that have preceded it, this chilly one-day race is the first opportunity for fans to see the classic specialists in their natural habitat. However, riders beware, winning this race brings with it a curse. The rider who wins at Omloop seldom performs well by the time the Tour of Flanders rolled around, some 5 weeks later. It's a big ask to hold such sharp form for so long and so far, and in fact, no male rider has ever won both races in the same season. Lizzie Deignan is the only rider to have ever accomplished this seemingly impossible feat, taking the win at both races back in 2016. Both the men's and women's race will take place this Saturday, the 27th of February, and I honestly cannot wait. The second race of the opening weekend is KUURNE Brussels-Kuurne. It has traditionally been known as the Sprinters Classic, with the likes of Groenewegen, Sagan, Cavendish and Bonen amongst the previous winners. However, the last two editions of the race have come down to an eerily similar finale. One particularly strong quick-step rider just riding away from the bunch and defying the odds to solo to victory. Askren last year and Jongels the year before. Could we see a similar result this weekend, or will the sprinters be the ones to contest the final? Demar, Pedersen and Christoph are amongst the fast men competing this coming Sunday, the 28th of February, so crack open a Belgian beer and enjoy. Next up, possibly the most visually stunning of all the spring classics, STRADE BIANCHE. Despite its short history and relatively short distance of around 180 kilometers, many fans of the sport consider this to be the sixth monument. A truly unique race thanks to stunning white gravel roads of Tuscany that have seen some epic racing over the past 15 editions. Last year's race, postponed to August due to the pandemic, was defined by almost 40 degrees heat, but now back in its usual March spot, expect to see a few more arm warmers on show and possibly some high winds to help break up the racing. I'm also obliged to remind you that our very own Dan Lloyd once finished top 10 at this race. And yes, Dan specifically requested that I mention that here, and also that Wout van Aert is the only rider to have gone quicker over the last 10 kilometers on Strava. Doesn't have much to shout about, so I guess we better allow him this one. Anyway, both the men's and women's races take place on Saturday the 6th of March, so clear your diary and make sure you don't miss it. Next up, La Classicissima de Primavera, more commonly known as Milan-San Remo. It's the first monument of the year and it's a big one. Typically covering around 300 kilometers, this race is a slow, gradual build-up to a roaring crescendo in the final 30 kilometers over the Sorpresa and Poggio climbs before the finish on the Via Roma. Generally, anything can happen, and I actually may not have finished in the top 10, but I did race this back in 2019, and honestly, it was a beautiful experience to be part of. It was an absolute honour to be at that race, and I felt like I was riding through history, covering the same route on roads that so many of my cycling heroes have previously ridden over. The speed of this race in the bunch is something else, especially as the Cipressa looms. The fastest, wildest ride I've ever had on my bicycle. Will we see a bunch finish won by a sprinter? It's now been 5 years since that happened, so the climbers and punchers will be feeling confident. Make sure you tune into GCN Plus on the 20th of March to find out. That race, like STRADE BIANCHE, is available in all GCN Plus territories, apart from Latin America and New Zealand. This year's Ronde van Vlaanderen is going to be another strange affair for spectators because organisers Flanders Classics have banned them from the roadside. No doubt there will be a few locals who watch from their front doorstep, but either way, the race looks quite different without the hordes of slightly intoxicated Belgians lining the entire route. Even it takes nothing away from the racing itself, which will be truly monumental. With a few other races in the region in the weeks leading up to the Ronde itself, at this point in the spring, we should have a good idea of who's in good shape and who's getting desperate for a result. The cobble climbs, or hellingen, of the Flanders region are so deeply ingrained in the history of cycling, and I absolutely love seeing the riders gurning away, struggling up them every year, especially now I'm not one of them. It's my favourite time of year. The men's and women's races will take place on Sunday the 4th of April, and you really don't want to miss this one. I know I'll be glued to my screen. As I will be the following Sunday for the big one, the queen of the classics, the hell of the north, is Paris-Roubaix. I'm more excited than ever before for this race because for the first time ever, we have a women's edition to run alongside the men's. Never before have the women's peloton raced over the cobbles of northern France, which are much tougher than the cobbles of Flanders. So this will be a truly unique, unpredictable race. Riding on the pavé of Paris-Roubaix is one of the toughest tests in cycling. If you've never ridden there before, I cannot describe how harsh some of the roads are. And if you have been lucky or unlucky enough to ride over any of the sectors in the past, then you know just how brutal this race is going to be. 55 kilometres of bone-shaking cobbles for the men and just under 30 kilometres for the women. It's always a deserving winner at the end of this truly testing race. Don't miss it on the 11th of April. It will be a fantastic end to what I'm sure will be an amazing Cobble Classics season. When the cobbled races finish, do not despair. We still have the Ardennes to look forward to. Although we wave goodbye to the cobbles of Flanders and Roubaix, the racing doesn't get any easier thanks to the short, sharp climbs that make up Amstel Gold. Flesh well on, and our last pick for this list, Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Lovingly referred to as La Doyenne, or the Old Lady, this year's race will be the 107th edition of the oldest monument on the calendar. The race has seen a few different courses over its lifetime, but it's generally been one that favours the climbers in the bunch, with previous winners including the likes of Roglic, Valverde, Van der Breggen and Lizzie Deignan. This year's editions take place on the 25th of April and will draw the curtain on the Spring Classics, with the Giro d'Italia kicking off the Grand Tours just 2 weeks later. So that's our pick of the top classics we're looking forward to this spring. But what did we miss? Be sure to let us know in the comments below what races you're looking forward to this spring and why. And don't forget, if you're watching this before the end of February, there's still just enough time to subscribe to GCN Plus for a ridiculous 50% off. £20, 20 euros or $25 US for 1 year of live and on-demand ad-free bike racing, expert previews and analysis, and our weekly World of Cycling show. Plus all of our amazing new documentaries too. What's not to love? As we've said at the top of the video, there's a link in the description below to check out exactly what races are available in your location. So make sure you check that out. And as always, thanks for watching and see you soon. Enjoy the classics.